I think that the NBA was just genius inviting Very Dark Man to come in as a panelist. And I think that if it was a man that was the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, I don't think Very Dark Man would have been invited. How do I know that? Because men have egos. No matter how humble or arrogant they may seem, they may not think that VDM will have been a valuable addition to the conversation. And he was controversial as usual. He started talking about the insecurity, and I don't think he said anything new from what he has been saying online. Like he had this wipe off board in his office, and he was talking about the interconnectedness of various stakeholders in regards to insecurity in Nigeria. And he did not know what he was doing. He was conducting a stakeholder analysis and a problem tree analysis, stating the problem of where the insecurity is coming from and how the Fulani herdsmen are being used as tools. One, they are very familiar with the forest. Two, they are herdsmen. They transport cattle and they are able to feed their flock. So he was able to really analyze that conversation, which I guess got the NBA interested and had him come into this conversation and be at loggerheads with some of these stakeholders, the Nigerian army included. So he spoke about quite a few interesting things. Let's discuss it. He first of all talked about how the Fulani herdsmen are being used as tools for money laundering. How's that? How does that happen? He said that politicians, government officials, when they want to launder money, they just get cows. So if one cow is worth 5 million naira, a big cow, if he does about 100 or about 1,000 cows, is about 1 billion naira. I mean, he did the math during the panel. And the Fulani herdsmen just walk around and are able to feed this cattle. And he even gave an example of one of my favorite politicians, Yensun Wike, him being very stubborn about Abuja. And he says they ask him about the herdsmen. And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. And he, used deductive reasoning, saying that since Wike doesn't want to talk about it, he's aware of those who own those cattle. So he talked about money laundering. He also talked about ethnic cleansing. He said that artisanal miners who come in and pay these Fulani herdsmen or Fulani bandits to come in and cleanse out a community for the purpose of mining. He said he went to Jos, after one of those incidents and saw minerals, rare earth minerals from the ground. So he said that the reason why that place was cleansed was because they were trying to produce a mining site. So in order to just kind of cut through all the red tape of going into the community, paying them off for their land, and going through all that bureaucracy, they just go in and conduct ethnic cleansing. And these are being paid by heavy backers that are from the government. So these are some things that he's mentioning. And he says some of this have to do with the army, other key stakeholders, that he does not trust the government, that they are responsible for the insecurity in the country. He also talked about that even the police, they are also responsible for some of this. He said that when they had multiple checkpoints going to various places, that they can just stop a car and then just interrogate the driver. And based on the results of their interrogation, they could put a call to kidnappers to actually stop them on the way. So these are some of the things that they talk about. And because of the insecurity, VDM is saying that the army has literally no budget, that all they have to do is to call the presidency or call the Ministry of Defense and say, hey, we need more guns, we need more ammunition. And all of a sudden the money comes from nowhere, 500 million naira, 500 billion naira, it just comes in for ammunition. And then all of a sudden, a lot of the land in Abuja belongs to military generals. A lot of property belongs to military generals because they are cashing out from the insecurity going on in Nigeria. So VDM he mentioned a lot. And one thing about BDM, whether we think he's right or whether we think he's wrong, he's bold. And he said whatever was needed to be said, according to what his thinking is. And I think it's as a result of that stakeholder analysis. When I went into his office, I saw the board, but it was cleaned out. I said, "Is that the same board?" He said, "Yeah." That he used to conduct that analysis and explain to us the cause of the insecurity in Nigeria, which is why he is still saying from now till tomorrow that he is not going to support President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Reason being, he is not presenting this insecurity. And there was a time he even alleged that this is another way for politicians to raise money for elections. That if they are going to go rescue children that have been kidnapped by bandits, if they are going to give them about 1 billion naira or about 2 or 3 billion naira, that money is being cut various ways, and the money is then taken for elections. So these are things that VDM was saying, and the army, stood up and said, "Bring your receipts and give it to the necessary agencies and put it in the court and say that this is what the army is doing, but do not say that the army and the armed forces are responsible for the insecurity, because a lot of soldiers on a daily basis are being unalived to keep the country safe." So these are things that were discussed in the Nigerian Bar Association. That's why I said the president of the Nigerian Bar Association was so genius to bring in Very Dark Man, because it publicized the conference, the convention. It publicized it and made it popular, and it was a trending topic throughout social media. So, and I think, and I would say that it's because it's a woman. I say, "Oh, gender, 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 gender." No, it's because if it was a male president of the NBA, they would not have invited Very Dark Man, because Very Dark Man has an imposing personality and it intimidates most. But this woman, she was like, "Look, let's invite him and let's create a big buzz about it." And it kind of brings it into context as to why VDM is saying he's not supporting President Tinubu, but he is not supporting any particular candidate. So I guess I can agree with it, but agree to disagree. With Very Dark Man, I think he can say, "Hey, this is my candidate," or "This is not my candidate," but he has chosen to just leave Rattles to be free to support whoever they choose to support politically. And his commentary on in the NBA convention, it's what he thinks. It's some of the intel that he has gotten, and this is just a quick awareness to everyone about what he thinks is the cause of insecurity in Nigeria. But let me ask FE analysts, what are your thoughts on the cause of insecurity in Nigeria? Do you think Very Dark Man is right? Do you think he's trying to clean up his image after the whole Mr. P Square fiasco? And I think, social media, people forget easily. So the Mr. P Square would just be swept under the rug like everything else, and let him be the VDM that everybody knows him as in speaking out against injustice and speaking out against the oppressed. What are your thoughts? Let's hear it in the comments. Thank you.